Hello, welcome back to my Duckburg Toy Box. I'm Professor Toybox, and this, of course, is Donald Duck. Last time we set up part 1 of our first DuckTales story, in which the Beagle Boys make a frontal assault on the money bin. Their defeat kicks off part 2 of the story, in which the player chases after their getaway car to prevent their escape. So that's what we're going to work on today. This car chase is something you can implement in a lot of different toy box settings, whether it's a Marvel superhero toy box, a Star Wars world, or a Disney setting like Tron, Tomorrowland, Big Hero 6, or Zootopia. Just change the vehicles and away you go. So the first thing we're going to need for our car chase are some vehicles. And so I'm going to drop down a couple of vehicle summoners, and I'm going to put them right over here next to the curb. And I think I'm going to flip that around, actually. Let's see. Oh, actually, that's right. The IN faces that direction. For some reason, the vehicle will spawn facing the other direction. And we'll need a couple of creativitoys here, a couple of buttons. And these are going to be for the vehicles that the player drives. And I could use some of the toy box vehicles, but I've got a couple of power discs here that I want to use. The first one is Mickey's car. So we're going to drop that down. And then I'm going to hook this button up over here to the vehicle generator, so that when that's pressed, we'll come to our vehicle generator and we'll come down to the hexagonal power discs and generate Mickey's car. And that way I don't have to dig through my box of power discs to find that whenever I want to play this toy box. And that's a good car because that kind of looks like Donald's car from the comic books. So I like that. So we're going to take that off. And the other vehicle I want to use is Darkwing Duck's Ratcatcher, because I think that might be kind of fun to drive too. And we're going to hook that up to the other one. So that way the player's got a couple of different options. And also by using the vehicle generators, the vehicles are not going to be taking up any memory if we're not driving around. So that's good. Now we've got some vehicles that we can drive, and I don't need to generate one, I've already got one. So we can kind of just cruise on over here. I'm going to park this up here for later. I'm not a very good driver. That's good enough. Okay, the next thing we're going to need are the weapons generators, because we got to have something to stop the other car with. And I'm going to put down a few of these. We're going to put 2 of them on the little straightaway back here. And we'll put one here. We'll put one there. And in order to use these, we have to go into their properties and turn on the auto spawn pickups property. And while we're right here, I don't need these for the car chase, but it'd be nice to have some weapon generators out on this end of the track for the race. Let's see, we'll drop them right here. It's kind of strange that that behavior isn't on by default. Remember the first time I put these in my toy box, in a different toy box, I was running over those and I wasn't getting any weapons and I didn't know why. And that's why. Alright, so now we have our vehicles, a choice of them. We've got the weapon generators. Now we need the Beagle Boys getaway car. And for that, we'll come up to the ground vehicles drawer. And I'm going to use the shield emergency vehicle because that looks like a nice little van type thing. I'm going to put this right here for now. And we'll come back to that a little bit later. Next thing we'll need is the path that this is going to follow. And I want it to start here at the money bin because this is where the chase begins. So this is where the path creator needs to be placed. And I'm going to put this right about here. And then we're going to go ahead and add some points. And let's see, that's the seam for those. So I think what I'd like to do is put this over here, about like so. Maybe middle of the road-ish. And we're going to create a path that the vehicle will take as it races around the toy box. And it doesn't have to be too precise here. We'll come down to the end of here. Drop one on the other end of this turn. I'm going to put it about the middle of the road so that it's not too far off to the side. And let's see, we'll put this about right there. And then we're going to come around this corner. And we want to put this about in the middle of the street. And I'm going to put this about here. And so it's kind of cutting that curb a little bit, but that's all right, because as the Beagle Boys are trying to make their getaway, they're not going to be driving too carefully. I'm kind of using the sidewalk as a gauge for where I put this, because I want to make sure that I put this exactly where I put it the last time. And that's my last point. So we'll exit out of point mode. And now we'll come over here and set the properties on the path creator. Oops. Here we are. Okay, so active is on. For the speed, I'm going to set this to be the maximum, which is 300. That's still going to move kind of slow, but we'll adjust that in a moment. I want to make it looped. And you'll notice on the little yellow line there for the path, it's coming up on the sidewalk. So we want to make sure that this clears the racing gate over there. Auto start objects is off, and the rest of those options are fine. So now as we look at this, that looks like that path is curving right up underneath that opening and up on the sidewalk a little bit. When we connect the vehicle in a moment, it'll end up sitting here on the edge of the road, and that's fine. I don't want it in the middle of the road in case I want to go racing. And we'll just kind of take a look at the rest of the path here. He's going to be cutting across the grass. That's okay. Cutting around this corner, around that corner. It'll be a little hard to tell exactly where that is. But we can see now it's not coming across that curb, but it's still taking that turn a little bit tight. That's all right. It'll jump this curb. And he'll swing over to this side of the road into oncoming traffic, and then swing up through underneath there and end up on the side of the road here. So that's good. And it took a while to adjust all those points offline to get them to line up right. So That's why I was careful to place them where I did. And you can pause the video to see exactly where to put them. So now we have the path. Let's go ahead and put down the rest of the Creativitoys, and then we can hook this all up. So I'm going to need a locator. This will be for the number of things: the radar marker on the vehicle, the smoke as it is after you hit it and it's bellowing out smoke for the first time, the explosion when you finally hit it the second time, and a whole bunch of things. And we're going to need, let's see, I'm going to put down a couple of buttons for testing purposes, and I'll drop these up here. We're going to need our target. This will be going on the back of the vehicle. We're going to need a couple of effects generators. I'm going to need an action enforcer for the celebration at the end. We'll need an enemy wave generator, because when we stop the vehicle, I want the Beagle Boys to get out. I need a radar marker. Let's see, 2 counters. We don't need a text displayer, a second one, because we have one up there we can reuse. I'll need a logic gate. We have our dual action trigger. I'm going to need a time delayer. I'm going to put this up here. And I'll need a level starter. I think that's it for the Creativitoys. Yep. And then the last thing we'll need under gameplay toys, we need the sound generator. And yeah, this is a lot to hook up, but it's not too bad. I'm going to put this over here with the action enforcer, because these are our toys for the celebration. Although we're going to use this sound generator for a lot of things. I'm going to turn off under the properties for the sound generator the 3D sound at speaker or locator, and leave the volume at 100%. And we'll start here. So, the thing that kicks this all off, as I mentioned last time, is this dual action trigger. And so when the Beagle Boys are defeated, both waves of them up here at the money bin, this is going to kick off the car chase. And the very first thing I want to do is, when this is complete, we need to get the player's attention that the car chase is beginning. So I'm going to come over to the sound generator, and under vehicle, we're going to do the tire squeal. And that's necessary, I think, because the player is going to be up here battling. They may not even be looking that direction. And so the tire squeal tells them that something's up. And I don't want the chase to start immediately. I kind of want to wait a couple of seconds until that sound is done playing. So that's why we have the time delayer. So under the properties, I'm going to set the delay time to 2 seconds. That should be enough time to get the player's attention and for that sound to finish playing. So in addition to starting that sound, the dual action trigger will also do a new logic connection on complete. We'll kick off the time delayer. We'll start the delay. And now the time delayer will start everything else when the delay goes off. And we'll get back to that in a moment. Let's see what's next. Let's go ahead and connect the vehicle to the path. So on the vehicle, we'll do a new path connection. And we'll connect it to the path. And it doesn't jump over there right away, but that's okay. And on the vehicle properties, under Toy Box Path, I'm going to set the speed to be 200. And this is a multiplier, essentially. So the path was set at 300, and this is going to set this to be twice that, basically, so 600, if that makes sense. Orient along the path is true. Reset, start point percentage, end point percentage, those are all good. Horizontal, vertical offset, forward, backward, that's fine. Rotation's fine. Movement style is loop. And I want to leave the driving physics off, which means it will follow this path pretty precisely. If I turn this on, it'll behave more like a car, but it's going to get separated from the target that's on the back and the locator that's following along. So we want them all to stay together. So I'm going to leave the driving physics off. So the vehicle's ready to go. Next, we'll connect the target. So we'll do a new path connection. And that one does jump to the path for some reason. It's kind of strange how the vehicle didn't, but this one did. Under the properties for the toy box path on this one, we want to set this to be 200 as well, because we want it to stay with the vehicle. Orient along the path is true, but I don't want it facing that way. So we need to come over here and change the rotation to 180 degrees. And then that way, as you're chasing behind it, you can shoot at it. And right now it's going to be sitting right in the middle of the vehicle and the two are going to be colliding. So we need to change the forward-backward offset. And we're going to set that to -2. So that'll put it on the back edge of the vehicle. And it's sticking up kind of high, so I'm going to set the vertical offset to -1. Oh, and the looping behavior, yeah, that's set to loop, so that's good. Okay, so now the target is ready to go. And the locator, I'm going to go ahead and leave this off actually and not connect that just yet, because I got to connect some things up to it first. So for the radar marker, we're going to do a new locator connection. And I want to connect that to the locator. And while we're right here, we'll set the properties. Beacon type, I'm going to use the yellow arrow, because this is the main quest. And this way you can see it wherever it is in the toy box. It'll show up on the radar screen in the lower left corner. And the beacon location is the locator, and it's going to be off by default. Each of these effects generators, we're going to connect up to that locator. This will be, one will be for the smoke, one will be for the explosion. So those are set. And I think, oh yeah, the enemy wave generator here is the other one that's got to connect to that. Okay, so 4 things connect to that locator. And on the enemy wave generator, let's go ahead and configure this while we're here. So under the wave, we're going to configure that to add some Beagle Boys. So when we disable the vehicle, they're going to get out of the car. And I want 5 of these. And under the properties, there's only one locator, so I don't need to turn the random locator feature on. Countdown is off, generation delay off, and we'll leave that set as off also. And there we go. So now we can go ahead and hook this locator up to the path. And that one doesn't jump over either. And that's actually not a bad thing, because once that does, it's sitting right on top of that path creator and it's hard to select it. So under the speed, we're going to set this again to be 200 because it has to keep pace with the car and the target. Orient along the path, I'm going to set that to true. And all of the rest of these are fine. Okay, so now to kind of test this a little bit, we're going to come up to our button, and I'm going to use this one to start it. So this will do a reset and play on each of these three things: on the vehicle, on the target, and on the locator. And again, these are just for testing purposes. Reset and play. And then the same thing for the locator. And then the other button I'll use to stop it. So new logic connection when pressed. I'm going to do a reset and stop. And the reset on each of these will put it right back here at the start of the path. And the locator. Okay. So now we can come over here. And first thing, we'll do the reset and stop. And now that put the locator and the vehicle and the target together. And as you can see, the target is right on the back edge of the vehicle, which is good. It's right on the bumper, riding it there. And the locator is right underneath the center of the vehicle with the little blue dot facing forward. So that's perfect. And we can come to the other button and do a reset and play, and off it goes. So we can kind of head over here and just kind of make sure they're staying together as they're traveling. And it looks like they are. So that's really, really good. And that's a good speed too. It's a little slower than the top speed of the vehicles that you drive, which means you can catch up to it, but it's not so slow. And the reset and stop put it over there. And it's not so slow that you're always outpacing it. So that's good. Okay, so we've got our vehicle, and it's moving around the path. And now we're going to kick this thing off for real. And it's all going to start with the time delayer. So come to the time delayer and a new logic connection. When the delay is completed, first thing I want to do is come over and turn on this radar marker. That tells you that that's the next part of your mission, is that vehicle. And because it's attached to the locator that's underneath the car, that radar marker will follow the car. The next thing I want to do is come over to the text displayer over here that we used last time. And because this is set to a banner, we can go ahead and reuse it. And so I want to have this come down to the stop drawer, and we're going to say stop. So that'll be like Uncle Scrooge going stop. And that's another indicator to the player that something's going on. So you got the tires squealing, you got Scrooge yelling stop. Next thing the time delayer is also going to do is come down to this logic gate. And this gate, I want this to be closed initially, so the time delayer is going to open it. And come to our level starter. And on catalyze, we're going to close this gate. And the purpose for the gate is that the target is going to come through that. So when the target is hit, I want that to come through the logic gate and input into the gate. And so when you start up the level starter will close this gate initially. So as the player comes around the corner and sees the target, if they shoot at it, nothing's going to happen because the logic gate that it's connected to is closed. But once the car chase sequence starts, the time delayer will come over here and open that logic gate. And so now, as you catch up to the vehicle and start shooting at it, when the target is hit, that will come through the open logic gate and go where it needs to go. So that's good. And we'll hook all that up in a moment. The other thing the time delayer needs to do, there's a bunch of them, is we've opened the logic gate. And the next thing I want to do is come over to all three of these things and start them moving around the path. So we'll come to the vehicle first. And we're going to do a reset and play. We're going to do the same thing with the target and the locator. So when the delay is completed, come over to reset and play on the target. And I'm hoping I can get to that locator. I probably should have hooked this up first. When the delay is completed, I think, nope, yep, nope. Toy box path, yes. Reset and play. If it were the path creator that was picking up, then it wouldn't say toy box path. It would say something else, and that's the path. So yes, we did get the right thing. Okay, so we got all of those moving around the path, and that's it for the time delayer. So the vehicle's going to take off, the radar marker comes on, the target and the locator go with it, and we've opened up the logic gate. Now we've already connected the target to the logic gate, so the next thing the logic gate needs to do is connect to the counters, and the counters are going to keep track of the number of hits. So on output from the logic gate, I'm going to come over to this counter and increment it by 1. And on output from the gate, we'll come to the other counter and do the same thing. And I'm using 2 counters because I need 2 different things to happen. So for the first counter here, open up the properties. I'm going to set the target count to be 1. So after the first hit is when I want the smoke to start. And so that's what this is going to do. So on this counter, on a new logic connection, when the target is reached, so when we've hit the target for the first time, I'm going to come to this effects generator, and we're going to play looped. I'm going to come down to the smoke drawer, and we're going to do a smoke plume. Now for this counter, this is going to handle what happens when you hit it the second time. And so for the properties on this, the target count being 2 is fine. The rest of those properties are good. So on this one, on a new logic connection, this is the counter that's going to stop the vehicle chase and set off the rest of the end of the story here, which is the Beagle Boys getting out of the vehicle and your final fight. So on this counter, when the target is reached, first thing I want to do is come over to this effects generator, and I'm going to play one time an explosion, and I'm going to do a bomb explosion. And also, when the target is reached, I want to go ahead and close this logic gate because there's no more reason to be hitting that target. And when the target is reached, we're going to come over to our enemy wave generator and generate the wave. And that'll kick off the Beagle Boys. And the other thing we have to do is stop the vehicle. So when the target is reached, we're going to come over to the vehicle and say stop, and it'll stop wherever it happens to be. And I need to do the same thing with the target and the locator. There we are. And I think that's everything. Oh, one more thing. We should turn off that radar marker. So when the target is reached, the vehicle is no longer the object of interest, so we can turn that off, because now we have the Beagle Boys piling out of the car. And that's everything for the counter. Okay. And now on the wave generator here for the enemies, for the Beagle Boys, once they pile out of the car and they're defeated, we'll do a new logic connection. When the wave is defeated, I'm going to come over to our action enforcer and have Donald celebrate because the mission is over. We'll have all players celebrate. And we'll also play our musical flourish. So we'll come back to the sound generator, do musical fanfare. And so after the last Beagle Boy is defeated, then Donald will celebrate because the mission's over. And I think that's just about everything that you need for the car chase. I'm just reviewing my notes here real quick. I think that's everything. Yep, looks like it. Okay, the last thing I want to do though, because we may have to test this a few times, is on my reset button here that we set up last time. I want to do a new logic connection when pressed. I want to make sure I come over and close this logic gate. And I don't need to worry about the vehicle and the target and the locator because I've already got another button over here doing that. But I do need to reset these counters. Assuming we get that far. And I also want to make sure any Beagle Boys that are running around get taken back out. So we'll come over to the wave generator and defeat the wave. And that should reset everything back to its initial state. So that's really good. I think that's everything. Oh, one more thing I just thought of. Let's make sure we turn off that radar marker. And stop the smoke effects. Because those smoke effects are looping, and they're not going to stop until I tell them to stop. And I'm not going to stop them at the end of the mission. I figure we'll let that vehicle smoke for the rest of the time the players are in the toy box. That'll be kind of cool. There we are. Okay, so we'll go ahead and hit the button. That'll reset everything. So Scrooge's radar marker is on. The logic gate down there should be closed. And I've already hit that button earlier, so the vehicle's in place and ready to go. So let's see what happens. We'll play through the story. So we come up to Uncle Scrooge. He says, "Here they come. Here come the Beagle Boys." There goes the tire screeching. There goes the car. We'll go ahead and hop in the rat catcher. Whoa! What happened? I don't think that one actually does any kind of weapon. Ah, some missiles, that'll help. They should be coming around the corner in just a second. Here they are. There's one hit. There's two. The vehicle went flying. And there we go. There's our car chase. The only glitch, I guess you'd call it, with this car chase is the fact that when we stop it, the vehicle doesn't stop right away. Sometimes it'll continue rolling forward a little ways. Sometimes, in this case, it tumbled for some reason. So there doesn't seem to be any way to get the vehicle to stop right when I tell it to stop. And we end up with this gap between the vehicle and the target and the smoke. Unfortunately, I don't think there's anything I can do about that. If any of you have any ideas, I'm open to suggestions. I'd love to be able to fix that. But anyway, there we are. The first story in my Duckburg toy box is done. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please give it a like. Next time, I'll show you how to build the second Beagle Boys story in this toy box, where they attempt to dig a tunnel under Scrooge's money bin. Be sure to subscribe to my channel or sign up on my blog if you haven't already done that, so you don't miss that next episode. And if you want to build this toy box on your own console or PC, be sure to visit my blog where you'll find floor plans and logic diagrams to help you out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.